Why is it that some gifted kids end up burning out at college? Like you hear about kids getting A's all through school with a 4.0 GPA, but when they get to college, it's like they hit a brick wall and burn out. They either graduate college with mediocre grades or just drop out. Read The Drama of the Gifted Child for a thorough explanation. TLDR: an adolescence of performing like a wind-up toy for others is not a healthy way to live your life. We all burn out eventually. The lucky ones learn to live as mortal humans afterwards. The experience outside the classroom is very different for grade school versus college. Some kids thrive in the more controlled environment of grade school and have a hard time managing things in college. They never learned how to really study and learn effectively because it comes easy to them. But then in college they hit classes they have to actually try in and falter. For some people, it's a long time to be in school from ages 3-22. Career guidance is also shit when you're in high school and college. So I wouldn't be surprised if some people feel overwhelmed by all of the decisions they have to make. Gifted kids get told good job. You must be smart, so when they don't do a good job they assume they're dumb. This is why it's generally better to say, good job. You must have worked hard on that. Some kids get pushed incredibly hard by their parents to get perfect scores and get punished if they don't excel at everything. They get to college and discover that mommy and daddy aren't there to push them as hard. Sometimes realizing they don't want to do the major that they were pushed into. Because public school is a joke and those kids get a 4.0 without ever needing to learn how to study or work hard. University requires them to use skills that they did not acquire in their education up until that point. High school is really easy. If you have natural skill, you don't need to learn work ethic or how to study. University is not easy. You need to study to do well. Exhibit A: me. I have terrible study skills and don't do nearly as well as I'd like to in my classes. In my case, it was because I wasn't challenged academically until college. So I had miserable study habits. Also, I was given no freedom till 18. So I got it all at once and did not handle it well. Intelligent and educated aren't the same thing. Intelligent and disciplined aren't the same thing. People think being intelligent is like a cheat code. It's not. There is no replacement in any field for hard work, dedication, and consistency. The structure I had from my foster parents and a rigid 8-3 schedule versus the complete lack of structure moving out at 17 with random uni schedule, huge breaks between classes, night classes, bad influences, and newfound adulthood with very little preparation. It's easier to focus on school when you don't have to also account for 100 of your own bills. Cooking, cleaning, time management. Oh, also, undiagnosed ADHD, figured that one out during the pandemic. Got meds. Game changer. Because gifted isn't always gifted. Sometimes it's developed early. So basically, they cap out and revert to just like everyone else. This is usually made a smidge worse because, due to ease, they have developed poor study habits along the way. Often, such gifted kids don't learn to study, work hard. That's fine when they're so much smarter than everybody else and they can coast to straight A's. Then they get to a college where everybody is as smart as them, or nearly as smart and a much harder worker. And those who are less equipped to work hard after never having had to do so can flail if they cannot learn new skills quickly enough. ADHD? I learned that in high school, if you showed up and tried, you were gonna at least do decent. College was different in the sense that even if you tried your best, sometimes you were just going to fail or not do so hot. That was a tough hurdle to overcome. Can tell you from experience. Being gifted makes K-12 a breeze. It also sets you up for failure in the real world because you never learn to study for difficult things. You never learned how to recover and move on from one bad grade. You can be the smartest person in the world and wind up homeless. Aptitude is just your ability to learn, not a sign of success in life. Happened to me in med school. It was rough learning how to actually study. For me, I had very little clue how to work at learning stuff. 4.0 in HS was largely a cakewalk. Edit plus a healthy dose of depression. Because they haven't had to study up until that point, you can easily graduate high school without ever studying for a test when the material is college level physics or organic chemistry or some other STEM class like that. Not so much. They never needed to learn how to study because school was always so easy that they didn't need to. By the time they needed to, they didn't know how and tried to pass college with the same techniques. They didn't work. We burn out as adults too. It comes from the expectations. The constant expectations. You spend your whole life hearing "I expect better from you." When you make the slightest mistake, it gets old. Then you grow up and you think that you'll finally be able to have your life your way, but the anxiety that comes from not getting it right all the time keeps screaming in the back of your brain. Until you finally just need to step back. There are issues with study skills and the like. Yes, that's far from the only issue. There's expectations, mismatched strengths against field of study, and so on. Some of us are led to believe we can do anything and end up studying things we aren't meant for. And if you are a bit brighter, you can get further in your studies before realizing you are much better suited for something else. It's very complicated, but one overlooked item is that these children usually grow up having more interaction with adults rather than their peers. I didn't even have to try the first 8 years in school. It just came easy for me. Then in gymnasium from ages 14 to 18 I had to study. But not a lot and aced the A levels. But now in university I really have to study hard. I've picked one of the most difficult studies in one single test. Seems like every other test I've ever took combined. I guess some people just don't adjust to actually having to study for tests to go well. To succeed in high school you need to be either smart or hardworking. To succeed in university you need to be both. There is a need for productive struggle in learning. So the learner develops persistence and self-motivation and becomes invested in intrinsic goals, like growth and discovery. Kids who are not sufficiently challenged and do not encounter scaffolded frustration with guidance may lack these traits when they meet genuine challenge without structured supports. I was a gifted kid in school and did fine in college. But it was a complete shock when I got there. My high school didn't do midterms or finals. So figuring out how to quickly pivot to retaining information for the full quarter was interesting. Now after college, that's when I burnt out. None of school compared to real life. I realized I am not an ideas person or necessarily proactive. I excel when given an assignment to complete. Graduated top of my class and had the worst time at college. I didn't finish. I had undiagnosed ADHD and also needed the structure that high school provided. When my kids graduated HS mid-3s GPAs, we had a long talk about college and if they were up to it. I told them college professors don't care if you show up to class. They get paid whether you are there or not. Most are not going to hold your hands and make sure you study and hand in work. It is on them to schedule fun, friends, studying, etc. I'm not going to hold their hand. I think a lot of kids going in think it is going to be an extension of HS but with more parties and no parents. Autistic burnout, depression, anxiety, bipolar 2, higher standard of work, etc.